Hello and welcome to the programme. First this hour, the United States says a standoff with Moscow over Ukraine can still be resolved diplomatically, but the risk of Russian military action warranted pulling US embassy staff out of Kiev. The US has already warned that Russia's military, which now has more than 100,000 troops massed near Ukraine, could invade at any moment. Moscow continues to deny it plans to invade, saying it is responding to aggression by NATO allies and has dismissed America's warnings as hysteria, with the latest. Aruna Iyengar reports.
A frosty phone call between Russia and the US has not yielded much. The two powers are a long way apart. The Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, has likened these diplomatic efforts to appeasement ahead of the Second World War. He says the reality is that Russia is highly likely to invade Ukraine and warns that Russia's military presence on Ukraine's borders is so large they could launch an offensive at any time. But Russia does have over 100,000 troops massed on Ukraine's borders. It accuses NATO of not taking its security concerns seriously and wants the defence bloc to promise never to admit Ukraine to its membership. Russia has tried to play down the threat of its military presence, saying the US is whipping up hysteria over an imminent invasion.
War can take an unpredictable path, and we think if Russia does act in the way that we fear it will bring tremendous hardship and greater insecurity into the heart of Europe, and that is a concern to all of us.
There are fears that Russia may initiate a so-called false flag operation. This might involve attacks on pro-Russian groups in Ukraine to create a pretext for an invasion.
He has showed that Russia will not be ignored. Don't forget that only 6 months ago everyone was talking about China, particularly the Biden administration. So Putin has succeeded in getting his demands discussed publicly, being again the centre of attention, and trying to demonstrate that Russia is still a great power, despite the fact that it is actually a declining power.
If Russia does invade, President Biden says that NATO countries will use sanctions to cripple the Russian economy. NATO is supplying weaponry to Ukraine and other Eastern European countries, but says it will not land troops in Ukraine. Time is running out for a peaceful solution. The US, the UK and other countries have told their citizens to leave Ukraine immediately. Aruna Iyengar, BBC News.
Right, let's get some of the latest diplomatic developments now. As we've just been reporting, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said the US embassy in Kiev was evacuated due to the, quote, imminent threat of Russian military action there. He spoke after Ukraine's president called for calm, saying the biggest enemy was panic. More than a dozen countries have urged their citizens to leave Ukraine. And there have been further attempts to diffuse tensions in the region. In a phone call, President Joe Biden warned Russian leader Vladimir Putin of swift and severe costs if Russia sends in troops. And here in the UK, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace has said a Russian attack on Ukraine is highly likely, and comparing some Western diplomatic efforts to the appeasement of Nazi Germany. He told the Sunday Times newspaper there was a whiff of Munich in the air, an apparent reference to the 1938 peace deal with Hitler. Well, Ukraine's ambassador to the UK, Vadim Prystaiko, is with me now. Thank you very much for coming on to the programme. Can I start with those comments by Ben Wallace here, comparing these diplomatic efforts to appeasement with Hitler? What's your reaction to that?
I would like to believe that we learned this lesson from 1938, and we won't be getting the same trap. At the same time, we would like to tell that all the cards really on the table right now. Everything which could be done collectively or individually by Western leaders was already done. What we can have now is just how to, find a delicate balance between panic and readiness to fight. The Ukraine is saying that we are resisting, we will fight. At the same time, this panic, the people being withdrawn, the money are leaving Ukraine. This is something which is hurting Ukraine. It just might be the whole idea of Putin to stay where here without even one shot, without one soldier crossing the border to achieve the goal.
So are you saying this Western diplomacy, these warnings from the US and the UK and Europe are actually doing Putin's job for him?
Maybe unintentionally, yes. What is happening here, that we've been in the war for 7 years. We grew quite a thick skin to the imminent danger of Putin to increase even more than it's already here. For many leaders around the globe, for many big outlets like yours, to see this preparation, they somehow come to idea that's something new, something truly dangerous. We already lost 13,500 people, so we're in the war right now. We don't need more of this. We'd like to resolve it diplomatically, and there is still a chance for this.
Well, do you believe, therefore, that Putin, when he says no plans for invasion...
I don't believe Putin.
You don't believe Putin?
No, unfortunately, we can't. He was telling that he is not in Crimea. In a year, he mentioned and recognized, I had to send some soldiers. Then he was saying that he was not killing our people, although even Russians were putting in internet videos how they are shooting from their own, with artillery, from their own territory. How can we trust him?
I spoke 24 hours ago on this channel to a former aide of Putin, Sergei Markov, and he said any invasion would be due to Ukrainian aggression if it happened, and would be, quote, a liberation of Ukraine, not an invasion. How do you feel hearing that?
We don't need to be liberated by Russian Federation, that's for sure. There is a very good saying that Russian-speaking people are in danger in Ukraine only in the places where it's already occupied by Putin. I also expect that they will try to stage some of the things. You mentioned 1938, but we can come to the 1st of September 1939, when Germans staged the attack allegedly from the Poles to invade just next day. So something like that can happen at any second in Ukraine.
So that's a kind of false flag event. You think something may happen that would then give a justification, a sham justification for Putin to take action. You think that's a very real possibility?
I don't want to give hint to Putin what way to take, but this is something very real, that tomorrow something will be killed or mentioned, that this attack from Ukrainian radicals, nationalists, fascists, that's all the words they're using to describe people who just want to live in their own state.
So do you believe these the US intelligence effectively that have given rise to actions like evacuation of the embassy, they're built on credible information, and then they're right, therefore, to evacuate staff from embassies?
I have all the grounds to believe the United States intelligence. We have our own intelligence. We talk to many other people and many other intelligences around the globe. But we also understand that Americans or Britons, they have the responsibility to defend and protect their own people first. So the staff of the embassy, they are members of families, they are just citizens of the UK or United States, have to be protected by your own governments. We do understand.
And what do you want the West to do now?
We want them to stay strong with us. Sometimes it means political united message. Sometimes it's the weapons, which some nations like yours are already providing. But seeing how this high liquidity papers are leaving Ukraine from the economy and just struggling with that right now, we might think of something like package to help Ukraine immediately to fight with this uncertainty, economic uncertainty.
And have you asked Prime Minister Boris Johnson for that?
We asked Prime Minister Johnson when he was in Kyiv many things. I was in Kyiv when he was in a visit. We are right now, even on Sunday, we are in constant conversation with your colleagues here in Prime Minister's office and FCDO, trying to get what can be done, and especially collectively.
And lastly, I just want to go back to the very first thing you said, this balance between preparedness to fight if it comes to that and avoiding panic. Where do you sit personally when you watch what's going on? How scared, how worried are you?
We have 130,000 Russians at our border. We have 250,000 of Ukrainians standing next to our border. We decided to have more 100,000 people in the army. We have reserved almost 2 million people, 500,000 veterans who would come to protect their lands. So we're quite prepared and would like to send this message that if you wanted to help us, the West, we will do our fighting ourselves. We just need something to be able to do so.